Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be talking about Trump talking about sending National Guard into Chicago. Surprise, surprise. He's been wanting to do this since his first term. He threatened it then, and he's threatening it now. So we're going to go through some clips about over the Mayor Brandon Johnson, what he has to say about it, what Pritzker has to say about it, the governor. And, just kind of generally talk about the left and their nonsensical stance on crime and their lack of being interested in solving it in any deep level. Mostly they are just concerned about mental health and things like that. But it doesn't have to be an either or. It should be both. So, the Democrats keep telling us that crime's not a big deal. That's because they generally don't live with it. These Democratic leaders don't live in these crime areas. They live in the nice areas. Even today, there was a video of somebody walking in Chicago who said, "Oh, what crime is Trump talking about?" And they're down by the water. Well, that's the nice part of town. Doesn't mean that there's no crime because there's not crime in this one particular part. Of course, there's crime. The numbers don't lie. Crime in Chicago is through the roof. It's still really high. Maybe it's come down some, just like DC, although DC's numbers were fudged and made up, and the corrupt left was trying to game the system. Chicago seems like their crime has actually come down, which that's great. I mean, but it took them a long time, and they're still reluctant and resistant to bring it down to the level that it could be, because they have this anti-policing basis, and their mayor is a racist who thinks that prisons are racist and certain crimes are racist and all this kind of stuff. So obviously somebody like that's not going to be that great at eradicating crime. But the Democrats hide behind their gates and their armed guards and their studio lights, while normal Americans are just trying not to get mugged walking to work or get their car jacked while they're at a stoplight. And they're still bent out of shape about this. It doesn't make any sense as to why. But let's just take a look at how out of touch the Democrats really are. Because at their DNC meeting, listen, Hector, that is such a dumb talking point. This is the kind of stuff that the Trump derangement syndrome will get you to say. Red states have higher crime rates than even Chicago. Well, do you know why that is? Any clue why the red states might have higher crime rates? Any guess? Any guess? Any guess? Oh, that's because they have really dangerous blue cities inside of them. Almost all the top 25 most dangerous cities are run by Democrats. They're packed full of Democrats. The mayors are Democrats. They vote Democrat. It's such a stupid Gavin Newsom point. Go and look it up so that you're actually educated, so you don't look like a moron. So anyway, we're going to talk here about the DNC not really understanding what voters really care about. Go look it up, Hector, and post it in the comments what the top most violent cities in America are and whether they are Democrat or Republican cities. All right, this is, I can't remember this lady's name. Anyway, she's speaking at the DNC summer meeting, and she literally says that migrant crime and carjackings don't matter to people.
Issues voters care about. Where does Trump go? Migrant crime, carjackings, the really lurid, awful stuff that is a crazy, crazy visual. Don't take the bait, because most Americans are more worried about how are we going to address mental health issues, the visible homelessness that we see on streets, and how do we deal with mental health and other issues that drive the sort of random incidents that scare all of us. That's what you should be talking about. That's where you should be focused. Don't take the bait in talking about migrant crime or carjackings or the things that actually don't matter to that many Americans. And then go to the
Okay. Don't focus on violent crime or things that don't actually matter to Americans. Imagine being so out of touch as this moron. She must live in her fantasy castle land behind gates and not read any stats at all because she's so clueless. 77% of Americans say crime is a major problem. And then they're scratching their heads why Trump won. Because this is how out of touch these people are with the everyday average American voter. You know, the average person says, we want to feel safe. We don't like crime. We don't like all these things. We don't like not knowing who's coming across the border, who might be a criminal, who might be in a cartel, who might cause all these problems. We'd like to know who those people are if we're letting them into the country. And the Democrats are like, nah, don't. You're such a bigot. Just don't even worry about it. Why would you even care? These are obviously all nice people who hug puppies on the weekends and volunteer. You know, it's so disingenuous. So 77% of Americans say that crime is a major problem for them and for the country. But the Democrats, they're busy giving land acknowledgments and diversity lectures and celebrating transgenders while people are getting carjacked and killed in broad daylight in their cities. And they're doing nothing about it. And that brings us to the crime capital of progressive fantasy land, Chicago. Let's take a look at Brandon Johnson, the dope who's the mayor for Chicago. And let's just look and see how ridiculous and disingenuous and out of touch he is. He's still acting like a fool, like an old school politician who can dodge questions.
You also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago. Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want, and I said those are good and important programs, but I'm asking also, would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs that a lot of cities are engaging in and having success with?
Well, look, here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know it's not policing alone, but I know it's not policing alone. You've told me everything else you want. I'm curious, and this does come down to an ideological difference between people. Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing.
What? The problem with crime is that there's not enough affordable housing? What kind of weird world does this guy live in? These people are committing crimes because they don't have affordable housing. He doesn't want to answer the question because he knows the answer is yes, but that his political cronies and his political friends would roast him over it and say, "Oh, how dare you say that cops are good and that they can bring down crime?" Because they have to play this weird game of like, now they're anti-cop, and they have been since for at least the last 5 years, but they have to play this oh, cops aren't the solution. Cops aren't the solution, even though Trump just sent the National Guard into Washington, D.C. and basically stopped crime. But it's not the solution. Trump didn't even build any affordable housing. How did he stop that crime?
Look,
Okay,
I'm
but
not
that's
saying
not,
that
that's
we
not
don't.
the question I asked. My question is, and I just need a yes or a no, do you believe the streets of Chicago would be safer if you got all of those other extraordinary programs put back into place, which do have a history of being successful, if that's complemented by having 5,000 more cops on the streets of Chicago?
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm agreeing with you that all of these other social programs are extraordinarily important. I just need a yes or a no, and then this will be the last time I ask. If you get all of those other social programs that 800 million that New York City does, Los Angeles, other people do with great success, would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported. I don't believe that just simply putting out an arbitrary number around police officers is the answer. What I'm saying is policing and affordable housing. It's policing and mental and behavioral health care services. It's policing and youth employment. It's a full package. Of course, we want to make sure that our police department is fully supported. That's why I've invested in our Detectives Bureau, because what we have seen in the city of Chicago, when we solve crime, it acts and serves as a deterrent. It's policing and all of the other efforts that we're doing. Here's the last thing that I'll say to that. The federal government could work stronger to coordinate with my police department to get guns off the streets of Chicago. We've seen these coordination efforts work. Just a couple of weeks ago, the ATF working with my police department, we removed over 150 guns off the streets of Chicago that were trafficked in through Mississippi and Indiana. No one is saying that police officers don't play an incredible role in driving safety. They play an absolute pivotal role in that. But we have asked law enforcement to do too much. Police officers are being asked to be social workers, counselors. What I'm simply saying is, if we're going to build safe and affordable cities across America, the one thing that safe communities all have in common, they invest in people. We have a poverty issue in the city of Chicago and cities across America. Police officers alone will not put food on the table. Police officers alone will not guarantee a high quality education. Police officers alone won't drive down unemployment. We need all of it. The President of the United States of America and the federal government could restore Medicaid. They could restore SNAP. They could stop defunding our public education system. Here's the most important point here. Justice Brandeis, over 100 years ago, the first Jewish American.
Okay, Joe Scarborough asked this guy a simple question. Would adding 5,000 more cops help reduce crime? And what did he say? He didn't. He didn't really say anything. He talked about housing and social programs and welfare and vibes and investing in people, whatever that's supposed to mean. Everything except actually answering the question. These people dodge accountability like their residents dodge bullets. Because to them, admitting cops work destroys the whole narrative that crime is just a systemic oppression. And Hector, that doesn't necessarily have to do with minimum wage. Often crime is related to poverty areas, but that's not necessarily a one-to-one correspondence. For example, West Virginia is one of the poorest states in the country, and it has one of the lowest crime rates. So how do you explain that? These people are poor, but they're not committing crimes. So you have to ask yourself, well, why are these blue cities in these red states so violent and such crime-ridden hellholes when they've had Democrat leaders for the last 60 years in these cities? And why are you trying to blame them having Republican governors I mean, it's the city council and the city mayor really run the city, and the police chiefs and deal with the crime. Why are they having such a hard problem with this? Because they're not really that interested in being hard on crime. They're passing stupid shit like, no cash bail. So the criminal doesn't have to put up anything, never shows up for court again, goes out, commits another crime, gets arrested, they let him out, no cash bail, then no leverage to get him back into court. And it's just stupid policies in these areas that have created a lot of this. Phil Hollowell. Let's see, what's this guy? What do you have to say here? I would gladly have your police come to my country in the UK, as our police have sided with the immigrants in Islam. We are fucking sinking over here, but we ain't done yet. Get yourselves to London. London on the, oh, sorry, that it cut it off. Yeah, Phil, well, we're going to get into that later on here. I've got a couple videos on the UK issues. I find it to be a real problem. I think it's really bad. And I'm glad to see that the UK citizens are starting to stand up and starting to fight. And they're not just going to take it bending over anymore like they have been for years. Their leadership's a bunch of dumbasses who continually screw over the citizens and at the same time gaslight them and tell them there's no problem, there's no crime, even though the citizens every day are experiencing it, and their neighbors are experiencing it, and their daughters and their nieces, they're all experiencing it, and yet their leaders are telling them that they don't, nothing to see here. All right, so this is Brandon Johnson. I got another clip here of him. So it gets better. Not only does he dodge police, he actually thinks putting criminals in prison is, wait for it, criminal. It's immoral. It's immoral. It's bad. It's racist. This is the crazy shit these people say.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that. And we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down. We cannot return to the same failed strategies that got us here in the first place. Under the previous presidential administration, we requested more federal resources to address gun violence in our city. We continue to make that same call. We have made significant progress on our own, but there is so much more that we can do if we had real support from the federal government.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so here he calls incarceration racist, immoral, and unholy. Yeah. Tell that to the families of the murder victims. Funny how it's always the criminals we need to feel sorry for and never the victims. You notice how they do that all the time? They're justifying the criminals, the people who are doing harm to innocent people who didn't do anything. These people go and defend them like it's some kind of moral high ground and moral mission. He acts like prison is the problem. When the problem is repeat offenders just walking right out of jail to go do the same thing again. Chicago's not suffering from too much incarceration. It's suffering from too much revolving door justice. And when Trump says, fine, if Chicago won't handle it, maybe we should send in the guard. Oh, here comes the hysterics.
Finally, to the Trump administration officials who are complicit in this scheme, to the public servants who have forsaken their oath to the Constitution to serve the petty whims of an arrogant little man, to any federal official who would come to Chicago and try to incite my people into violence as a pretext for something darker and more dangerous, we are watching and we are taking names. This country has survived darker periods than the one that we're going through right now, and eventually the pendulum will swing back, maybe even next year. Donald Trump has already shown himself to have little regard for the many acolytes that he has encouraged to commit crimes on his behalf. You can delay justice for a time, but history shows you cannot prevent it from finding you eventually. If you hurt my people, nothing will stop me. Not time or political circumstance.
I think a buffet would
from
stop
making
him.
sure that you face justice under our constitutional rule of law. As Dr. King once said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Humbly, I would add, it doesn't bend on its own. History tells us we often have to apply force needed to make sure that the arc gets where it needs to go. This is one of those times. I look forward to taking your questions in a few minutes, but first, I'd like to hand over our podium to Mayor Brandon Johnson.
So we got Fatty McFats here throwing a tantrum and calling it an abuse of power. I mean, God forbid the guards show up to stop people from being shot in the south side of Chicago. Pritzker doesn't care about safety one bit. He cares about optics, like all these other clowns. The people of Chicago aren't worried about constitutional pissing matches. They just want to walk home without getting robbed or shot. And while Pritzker plays politics, the DOJ just exposed what Johnson's really up to inside of City Hall.
Mayor Johnson.
Yeah.
Please turn the mic on. Thank you. Real Chicagoans woke up this morning relieved that the Department of Justice is finally investigating your race hustle. As someone who grew up on the south side of Chicago, I've heard a lot of race hustlers in my life, trust me. But they were usually marching around outside of City Hall, which is what makes this so embarrassing and dangerous. For over a year, real Chicagoans, white and black, have been telling me that your black power rhetoric is bringing the city backwards from a place that
we need the question.
Had overcome. You want the question?
Please.
Real Chicagoans want to know, why are you a racist?
You know, first of all, I reject the idea and the premise that somehow that's an actual legitimate question.
You want that?
All right, we're going to go to the next one. Alice?
The next question, my follow-up question is a businessman, Robert Gomez, had his riverfront restaurant license yanked. You said that the reason you hire black people is because they're the most generous race on the planet. His riverfront restaurant license was yanked and given to a black restaurateur. That has, once again, reinforced the belief among real Chicagoans, white and black and Mexican, that you are a racist. What do you say to those people?
Again, I reject the premise that somehow that your question has any legitimacy. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. We'll go to Alice.
Thank you. The number one employer of our people is our people. What I'm saying is, when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet. The deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development is a black woman. Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief operations officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man. One thing that I know for sure that I have to do over these next 2 years, every single dime that our people have been robbed of, I want to make sure that that is returned 2, 3-fold. We have 6 developers that have received the first $30 million for investment. 6 developers. Of those 6 developers, 5 of them are black and 3 are women. BOA Construction received the prime construction contract at O'Hare under my administration. It's the first black prime construction worker company to have a prime contract anywhere in the United States of America.
All right. Yeah. So this dummy brags about how racist he is, that he chooses contractors for the government based on the color of the owner's skin, that he chooses leadership positions based on the color of people's skin. It's just flagrant, blatant, outright racism. And people are clapping for it, and people applaud this guy as if he's some kind of progressive hero who's really seeing through the facade of white supremacy or some bullshit. I mean, they have active... I mean, could you imagine if a white person said this, how horrible that would sound? And I would disagree with it too. Yeah, you don't hire based on the color of people's skin or their gender. That's being discriminatory. You hire based on their skills, based on their experience, based on whether they can do the job you hire them for. And the people who hire these crackpots who hire people based on these irrelevant factors, the people almost always suck at doing their job. So the DOJ is now investigating this moron for blatant race-based discrimination. You know, he brags about it here at church, about picking staff only because they were black. That's not equity, that's racism. And when pressed, he gives the same old dodge. My administration is diverse. I mean, as if we needed more corruption in Chicago, they hired this guy who then just adds to it, and he gets applauded for it. I hope that the DOJ, you know, get this guy and make him pay. How dare he? You know, and when you've got politicians this incompetent, you need the media to cover for them, and that's exactly what the media does. That's basically their only job anymore.
I think the reason why you may feel that way, Arthur, is because you maneuver in society with a certain privilege. The question is, who are these?
Well, hold on, what privilege? When I get on the subway, just tell me the privilege. When I'm dressed like this on the subway, I am a target. That is not a privilege. I'm a target. There's the guy who probably has a wallet and a watch.
Arthur, I want you to be
That's not
open.
Privilege.
I want you to have a little bit of intellectual curiosity and be open and let me finish my point.
I'm very curious.
Thank you. I think when you ask the question, who is the militarized law enforcement there to protect, and who are they there to protect from? And so often in this country, particularly, that is how law enforcement swelled their ranks. There was so much violence against people of color, black people in particular in this country, that they said it's okay to beat a black person, to murder a black person, but you gotta be wearing a badge when you do it.
Who are the victims?
Do you want to listen, or you can't talk and listen at the same time?
Well,
let me just tell you. It doesn't sound like it. My point to you is, I am telling you on the front lines what is happening. And there are militarized police force going in harassing longtime law-abiding citizens of Washington, D.C. And so when we, who are probably a little more familiar with American history perhaps than you, look at the military turning the police force on its own people, we remember the examples like Tulsa, when law enforcement dropped bombs on its own community. We know what it is like to have people.
We're far from that, though.
We are not so far. We are not so far from that. We are not so. We are actually not so far from that.
We need to bring some numbers into this. I think I actually hate this woman. I mean, she is so condescending and arrogant, and she's such a mouthpiece for all these ridiculous ideas. She comes right out of the gate talking about, oh, he's got privilege, so he couldn't possibly understand. That's so dumb. And then, those of us who know history that you probably don't know, you know, just, it's disgusting. It's annoying. It's like she's one of these morons who has 100% confidence and 0% competence. And she gets all blustery and acts like because she's heard the lies repeated from the left that she knows the truth and she knows what's real, and she's going to teach him, and get out of here. Shut the fuck up. You know, everything is about identity. Everything is about race. These people can't see anything other than race. They're so brainwashed to view the world this way. Everything's about identity, but crime doesn't care about privilege or identity. Muggers don't ask who you voted for before they steal your wallet. But with jackasses like this woman, every conversation turns into a lecture about privilege and the history of the United States and all this kind of nonsense. And they go back 100 years and pull up some random event and say, see, that proves my point that you, white guy, have privilege on a subway. What are you talking about? We've made a ton of progress. And instead of talking about that, it's like these lefties can't handle the idea that all that energy and all that effort and all that brainwashing is not true, and that racism is not institutional anymore. It's like they don't even want that to be true. They need it to be true. They need it to be constantly in the forefront of every conversation so they can use it for their own benefit to shut other people down. And it's just disgusting. And when you think that her smugness can't get any worse, Tiffany here takes it even further.
But anytime
that is a parody. I bet you took a car service here. I bet you get chauffeured around. When was the last time you were on the subway? When was the last time you were in Brownsville, Bed-Stuy, East New York?
Let me tell you, my friend, you have no idea about my life.
Okay, so when was the last time you were on the New York City subway? Tell us.
Last week.
Hang on just 1 second, Arthur.
I did, but can I just say really quickly, Abby, because anytime that we play something from Stephen Miller, it would be journalistic integrity to point out that he is a white supremacist and he is the brainchild behind this policy. That's not my opinion, that's actual facts. And for him to purport lies from the Oval Office as a white supremacist,
I don't know.
It should be pointed out.
It's
reporting Washington Wall Street Journal's own reporting.
I want to address what
Yeah, see, then she goes right back into it. It's all about identity politics. These people don't know that the identity politics shtick is done. It's over. Nobody cares about it anymore. Nobody's intimidated by it anymore. It's not interesting anymore. It's not accurate anymore. You know, she just flat out to discredit Stephen Miller. She just flat out, he's a white supremacist, and that's not even my opinion. That's a fact. What? Based on what? This clear lady's a crackpot. The journalism's dead. These people don't even pretend anymore. They just come right out with their lies, and they just declare that they're facts. You know why they're facts? Because I want them to be facts. That's right. That's why. I want my opinion to be the truth. So I'm just going to declare that it is, while not having any ground to stand on. This lady's a blatant racist, and she's out here scolding and trying to teach other people. It's crazy world to me that these leftists can be so sexist and so bigoted and so racist, and then at the same time call everybody else racists and bigots. It's crazy. If you oppose open borders, you're a racist. If you want safe streets, you're a racist. It's lazy, it's dishonest, and it's why the media is collapsing. Nobody watches this anymore. I think mostly people only watch this stuff to hate watch. You know, they've got 90,000 viewers or something. 75,000 of them are probably Republican MAGA people who are just listening to it so they can get clips to make fun of these morons. Tiffany Cross isn't a journalist. She's a race baiting influencer with an, MSNBC credentials. And, this is the modern left in one rant. Democrats tell you crime doesn't matter. Chicago politicians make sure it gets worse. Governors play politics with safety. And the media gaslights you with lectures about privilege and racism. Meanwhile, out here in the real world, Americans just want safe neighborhoods and common sense. This isn't that hard. And that's exactly what these clowns can't deliver. So, and as if the U.S. is in a bad state, I fear Europe's in an even worse state. Let's take a look at what's going on over there. Look across the pond here, and let's. Europe's running the same playbook, really: mass migration, violent crime, denial, leaders lecturing their own people instead of protecting them. And one of the worst is Keir Starmer. He's just so intolerable. I really have a hard time standing this guy. But let's take a look at what he thinks the problem is for why the crime rates have gone up in Europe, as for him in the UK.
We've seen a devastating rise in Islamophobia, leaving people feeling fearful and unsafe in their own country. I've heard firsthand of women wearing hijab who are too scared to travel by public transport, of Muslim families being abused as they leave the mosque. The surge in Islamophobia is simply appalling. Muslim women and girls disproportionately targeted, mosques forced to ramp up security, and British Muslims questioned as if they are terrorists. I do not want Britain to be a place where British Muslims are not able to be their whole selves, where they feel they must hide or tone down who they are for fear of being attached to views that are not their own, where they're asked to apologise for the actions of people who do not act in their name. Our Britain is one where the enormous contributions of British Muslims are recognised and celebrated, their stories heard, their lives free from discrimination.
Okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we get it. Okay, so the problem is the British population, the citizens. Basically, that's what he's saying. The problem's Brits. It's not the Muslims. Obviously, it's not them. I don't know. Why are people so having such problems over here with these guys? If they're just like beautiful people, beautiful citizens who aren't committing crimes, they're fitting into the culture, they're pro-Britain, they're yay, UK, then these people are just making this shit up. That's your opinion? They're just a bunch of bigots, a bunch of racists, a bunch of phobes this and ists that. What kind of leader are you, you dumbass? He is so corrupt and so stupid. He hates his own country. He hates his citizens. And he chooses these people who come on boats illegally into the country over the people who built the country. I mean, it's wild. And, as dumbfounded as he is, maybe there are reasons, So, I mean, foreign nationals, for example, are 71% more likely to be convicted of sex crimes than Brits. 71%. Afghan and Eritrean migrants, 20 times more likely than British men to be convicted of sex crimes. Convictions for sexual offenses among foreign nationals have spiked 62% since 2021. I mean, I could go on and on and on with these stats. The jackasses like Starmer will just ignore them. They just don't care. These aren't real. You know, even though the people experiencing these things are in an uproar and trying to tell him, he won't listen to his own people. He just calls them bigots. So more gaslighting from these commie leftists. The numbers show the real problem is violence and sexual crime. We see the videos of migrants stabbing people. And if you dare speak up against it, hold up. The mob will come for you. So this is a guy who criticized Islam. And these people who just love being there, who just have total British values, what do? Oh, they burn his car down and vandalize his house. Burn his house too. Because they can't handle some criticism. Is not criticizing anybody ever a British value? Isn't it more like you should be able to speak your mind and debate and have opinions about things? That would be the British value. Not the closed-minded, fragile, weakness of I have to burn. If you say anything against my religion, I'm going to burn your car, burn your house, kill you. I mean, Britain doesn't have blasphemy laws, but criticize Islam, you'll get punished like this. And you suppose that they're going to put any effort into finding out who did this? In Britain, Christianity can be mocked daily, but one word about Islam, and you put your life at risk. It's out of hand. I mean, it's so wildly out of hand, and the leaders are not concerned at all. I mean, this next video is one that's really caught fire lately, and I think it's because it's a little girl. Here's a 14-year-old girl carrying an axe and a knife to protect her 12-year-old daughter or 12-year-old sister from grown men who were trying to assault her. I mean, is that crazy? That is just.
Yes, you have a knife.
I'm fucking trophy. You're fucking bad and
why are you fucking with us?
You're fucking kid bastards.
This is in Scotland.
Show the knife. Show the knife. Show the knife.
Away from her.
Show the knife. Show the knife.
Don't touch her.
That's it. That's it. Show the knife. Show the knife. That's it.
Don't fucking touch my little sister. She ain't fucking 12. Wait until I fucking touch you. She's fucking 12 and you just battered me, mate. Wait until I fucking touch me.
Yeah, show the knife. Maratha.
Don't touch her gun to me. Don't touch her. Oh, you don't dare.
Yes.
So this girl's protecting her sister. Obviously, they're terrified of something happening. They've brought along an axe and a knife because you know why? I think because this is the first time that some kind of sexual violence has ever taken place, maybe. Yeah, no, because it's so commonplace that people are terrified. And you know what they did? They arrested this girl. Probably didn't even put any effort into the migrant. These kids don't trust the police to keep them safe. So they arm themselves. And authorities arrested her immediately, faster than they ever arrested the grooming gangs that abused 1,400 girls in Rotherham. It's classic. It's the two-tier justice in the UK and growing more in the US. but they've definitely got a two-tier justice system. Locals are punished and the predators are ignored. And it's disgusting. And while Britain spirals, one country in Europe said, not here.
Refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me, if you're asking me about Muslims illegal immigration, none, not even one will come to Poland. Not even one if it's illegal. We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
But I asked not about illegal immigrants. I asked about refugees. And Jean-Claude Juncker, the Commission President, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
Of course, because this is what our people expecting from our government. That's number one. This is why our government was elected. This is why Poland is so safe. This is the reason why we had not even one terrorist attack. Look at the streets in Poland, and we can be called populists, nationalists, racists. I don't care. I care about my family and about my country.
Well, I'd like to hear Starmer say something like that. Care about his country like that. He doesn't care one bit. You know, it's like we're looking to Poland as the example. I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, no disrespect, Poland, but you know, that's just kind of surprising. You know, officials are bragging, we don't take it, Muslim immigrants, and shocker, it's one of the safest in Europe. I wonder if those things have any relation to each other. And if you say that, they throw out the race card, they throw out the Islamophobe card, and you just smack that off to the side and say, this is about stats, this is about facts, this is about reality. I know you want to live in your little fantasy world where everybody's a good person and they're not interested in harming people and taking their stuff. And, you know, Poland's crime rates are low. Murders are rare. Sexual assaults are falling, not rising like all the European countries that have all these supposed refugees coming into them. And it's exactly why, because they didn't throw their borders wide open and let these people rush into their country so that they could feel good about themselves, that they're the open-minded, progressive liberals that they are. That's all this was about. It wasn't about them thinking that they didn't even think about it. They just thought, well, how can we appear to be the good people? Whereas this guy in Poland's like, no, we're the good people because we're protecting our citizens and we're doing what they elected us to do. And we're taking them seriously. Oh, imagine that. They took in millions of Ukrainian refugees, and yet their sexual assault rates are falling. The murders are rare. So if there's no difference between all these groups, then why didn't their sexual assault rates go up like in the UK? Why didn't their violent crime rate go up like in Germany or Scandinavia or whatever? You know, in Sweden, more than half of the convicted rapists are foreign born. In Germany, refugees are just 2% of the population, but make up 12% of rape suspects. Poland didn't buy the open borders lie like the rest of, like Western Europe did. They avoided the chaos that these people are all dealing with. And while Poland keeps its streets safe, here's what British police are busy doing. A man was waving a Union flag outside an asylum hotel, and he gets tackled and choked by Sussex police.
What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? What? Section 50? You're fucked. You're fucked. You're fucked. And you're fucked. You're all fucked. What's he done?
You know, so this is what the crime that they're wasting their time on. You know, protest your own government's immigration policies, and what happens? You get slammed into the pavement. Meanwhile, grooming gangs and violent offenders, they're handled with kid gloves, let go on very little punishment. It's the definition of two-tier policing, and it has to come to an end, or the people are going to do something about it. And if it wasn't insulting enough, if that wasn't insulting enough, look what happened to England's own flag. And I think that Starmer gets a kick out of this stuff. I think he probably loves it. Putting up the English flag, English white lib morons, just like we have in the U.S., thinking that they're all virtuous. Go and tear it down because it's stomp on it. So this is how much hatred Starmer's fueling for his own country, for their own country. They don't want displays of pride and nationalism. They don't want people to love their country and want to protect its culture or do anything like that. He wants to destroy it and rip it down. I mean, it's just it's disgusting. It's the same thing that these whack job in the U.S. It's almost all white women drive this kind of stuff. They have this weird sense of white guilt and think that by attacking the very country that gave them all their privilege, they can somehow feel good about themselves and not feel like they're a bad white person. You know, it's just like this flag's 1,000 years old, and they just treat it like it means, like it's nothing, like it's something evil and terrible. And the media shrugs and Starmer shrugs. Try stomping on a rainbow flag and see if Starmer says anything about that or the media says anything about that. You know, in the U.S., there's people who are saying, and this probably has happened in the U.K. too. They say, if you have an American flag outside your house, I'm just going to assume that you're probably a racist. So, and leading this circus in London is none other than this genius right here. So he says, Islam is a religion of peace. The real problem is Islamophobia.
कि लोग जो non-Muslims हैं वो समझे Islam peaceful religion है. We're not terrorists, we're not bad people. But unfortunately, some people try and divide communities, try and turn people against Islam, Muslims. और हम कोशिश करते हैं और इंशाल्लाह कि वो लोग educate हो जाएंगे. कि लोग जो non-Muslims हैं वो समझे Islam peaceful religion है. We're not terrorists, we're not bad people. But unfortunately, some people try and divide communities, try and turn people against Islam, Muslims. Or
maybe you should be talking to the Muslim criminals and not talking to the citizens of the UK, of London. I just don't understand. It's like these people can't wrap their head around the idea that there could be bad Muslims. It's like they don't think that's possible. And if there is one, it's got something to do with is probably England's fault that they did something bad. You know, knife crime is soaring, grooming scandals are unending, migrant crime is rising. But Khan says that the real threat is hurt feelings and judgment. Nobody's attacking these migrants. Nobody's attacking them. They're voicing their opinion. They're saying what they want from their leaders, and that's fine. they're acting like saying some bad words is equivalent to raping someone. So they're focused on the bad words instead of the actual crime. You know, he just get knighted while his city bleeds. Proof the elites reward failure if it's wrapped in the right buzzwords. And Phil, yes, I agree. You're probably exactly right. Their grandfathers probably did fight for England. And here they are trampling on the flag that he put his life on the line for, most likely. I mean, the people are so out of touch. I don't know. They haven't learned anything about any of the glorious history. It's probably like the US, where you just learn about the negative things. Oh, the UK bad, did this, colonizers, blah, 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 this kind of stuff. And that's all they focus on. So then they think, oh gosh, Britain bad. If you think, ordinary Brits are, not doing anything about this, there's tons of videos going viral about people. This one here is in St. Helens, where locals are protesting outside an asylum hotel, chanting, "If you like bacon, clap your hands," because earlier there was maybe a week ago, I don't know, maybe it was longer than that. They outside of a mosque there was protests, and a young kid yelled that he loved bacon, and he got arrested because that's apparently the crimes that the police are super focused on. Saying I love bacon. Oh, that's so offensive. It is just words. He's not like stabbing them and then shoving bacon in their mouths. I mean, it's so dumb.
It's just easier to say, yeah. It's just easier to say, yeah.
I love that. I think that's so funny. If you like bacon, clap your hands. Hey, I love bacon. Love it. I love the British humor. I was, mocking this insanity that's going on, driven by their insane leaders. They're probably coming to round up these people. You get arrested for liking bacon now. Pretty soon, there'll be bacon will be banned from the UK because it's Islamophobic bacon. Or eating bacon will be a hate crime. You won't be allowed to eat bacon in public. You'll have to smuggle it in through the border and have a black market where people are buying bacon because the Muslims don't like it. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if Starmer didn't say something like that. I mean, you can't make this shit up. Meanwhile, rape rates spike and foreign crime soars. Flags are stomped, but bacon is where they draw the line. Oh, this is Europe in 2025, people. Deny crime, silence critics, protect criminals, and lecture citizens about Islamophobia while their culture collapses. But just like in America, people are waking up. From Sweden's rape crisis to Britain's grooming gangs, voters are done being gaslit. And when the backlash comes, no lecture on diversity or Islamophobia will stop it. All right, guys, let's see what we got here. Phil, thanks for your comments. I appreciate it. Both my grandfathers fought in World War II. I'm glad they're not here to see what's happened to their country. Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty disappointing, for sure. It's definitely not the same country as what he put his life on the line for. It seems, at least from over here, it seems like it's rapidly declining. I know it's been happening for at least 10 years with the migrants, but it just seems like it really has reached this really intense point. So you guys need a Trump over there. Clean this shit up. All right. That's all I have for you. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. And I'll see you again soon.